Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Theravada Buddhism series, Dhamma talk number 58. Doors, consciousness, and Vipassana. Dwara Citta Vipassana. Buddha taught us one can depend only on oneself, not others, to be liberated from samsara. One practices Vipassana to achieve that goal. In the practice, one must observe eye, ear, nose, tongue, body and mind doors when seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, and intending. In other words, one must observe the moment when six sense door, six sense objects, and six kinds of consciousness come in contact. One must start the practice by observing the body, because it is easy and obvious to observe. Once one becomes skillful in observing the body, one can proceed to seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, and thinking. Step by step, especially for beginners. Let's see how to implement these operations. Let's take a brief look into the walking meditation process. In walking meditation, we note lifting, pushing, and dropping movements of the foot. If one is very, very attentive, one will sense lightness at the moment of lifting. And foot moving forward with a series of movements of lightness. And dropped a series of signs of happiness. So that's what it is. When we say lifting, of course, there are many other things one would observe. The reality is the lightness. And pushing forward means a feeling of lightness, but in a series, more like gliding process. Gliding process, a series of light movements. And when one drops the foot slowly and carefully, you will feel a series of heaviness dropping, dropping, dropping. That is the true nature. That is the reality of what we call lifting, pushing, and dropping. If one is in that zone, in other words, if you can observe that way, if you can sense that way in your walking meditation, not just one moment, one after the other, if you are in that zone, the yogi has no full awareness of the environment, totally in it, not aware of anything what's happening around. Let's say someone passes by that yogi. Of course, the yogi will sense someone pass by, but the yogi has no awareness of who that person is, or even say, not even whether it is a man or a woman, simply a person passed by. That's all the awareness the yogi will have. And if one experiences that way, then that yogi is precisely seeing at the moment of contact. Bare awareness of seeing without any other information. That is seeing when we say seeing in Vipassana. I will explain seeing from a different angle, from different approach. When a yogi comes across an object in sight, something comes within the sight, and the yogi notes, wanting to see. Something there's there. And then, first and foremost, what is happening in that yogi is desire to see. And if yogi is properly noting, will sense a desire and note wanting to see, the desire, the intention. And if the thing or the object is beneficial, if it is not beneficial, that intention or desire of wanting to see will cease, stop. That's it. And the process ends without further which means looking for the project. The yogi will not look at the project object. However, if the yogi will proceed with the process, if the object is functional, something useful, something must, it's required. And if it is required, one will proceed with the process. And when you proceed with the process, what's the next? And if one is really very attentive in mindfulness, then the yogi will know the manner of the eye. The manner of the eye is the upper eyelids move up, the lower eyelids move down, because your eyes are only half open. Now is fully open. And then you will sense, feels the energy or exertion in the eye to focus on the object. If that's the case, the yogi has achieved the correct seeing, bare awareness of seeing. But one has to be, step by step, have to experience these three stages. Intention to see, the manners applied in the eyes, and the exertion of energy to focus the eyes. If one can be aware of these things, that seeing is the correct seeing. Bare awareness of seeing. That's what the Buddhists meant when we say, when you see, note seeing, seeing. And this is precisely what is required to fit that definition of seeing. Observing intention to see the object is the mindfulness of the mind. If you know your intention, you are practicing mindfulness of the mind, Citta-nupassana. And when the yogi is noting the manners and movements of the eye, one is engaging in mindfulness of the body, Kaya-nupassana. And if one knows and sees at the present moment of contact, one is exercising mindfulness of the Dhamma, Dhamma-nupassana. See, we like to split hairs. I am practicing Vedana-nupassana or Kaya-nupassana or Citta-nupassana. But if you truly understand both theory as well as in practice, in every activities, these full foundation of mindfulness are involved. They are occurring at all times, one or the other. But we like to put it as, I'm specialist in Citta-nupassana, I'm a specialist in Vedana-nupassana. But in reality, All four foundations are involved. But of course, our perception is we are exerting more on one of the foundation. It's okay. But we should be aware all four foundations are involved in all our activities, regardless what we might be specializing in. To intuitively understand what non-self is, one must observe the disappearance of the mind and the body. That is in Pali called Sankhara Dhamma. That's why a yogi must incline the mind to watch the dissolution of objects. Of course, we are always watching objects, observing objects, mindful of the object. But here, it has been pointing out to us, we should incline the mind to see the dissolution, the ending, the cessation of the moment. Whether you are watching rising or falling, or lifting, pushing or dropping, one must see the end of each activity. Once the abdomen expands or rises, it's instantly followed by its disappearance or ending. And after the rising ends, the next object is falling movement. Falling movement arises and then it ceases too. So in general, an object appears and disappears successively, and the next object takes its place and repeat the same process. It goes on and on perpetually. Object appear and disappear, appear and disappear, appear and disappear. A new one takes the old one place, a new one takes the old one place. By inclining the mind towards seeing the disappearance, a yogi progress will become faster. Okay? Everybody's practicing the same thing under the same instruction. Some progress faster than the other. And this is one of the causes. Inclining the mind towards cessation. And while you're observing, at any moment, whenever the balance of the 5 controlling mental faculties is in place, one will see the arising and passing of the objects with precision. That's when you precisely see the moment of arising and the moment of passing away, when your 5 controlling faculties are in balance as required. The rising movement disappear into the darkness, into the thin air, rise and it disappear without leaving any trace. You can't find anywhere. When the falling movement appears, they have a very sharp boundary. One appears, and when the next object comes, there is no awareness of the previous object that it even exists. That's when you are seeing the arising and passing away with clarity and precision. When the concentration becomes strong and intense, one will only see the object's disappearance. You won't see the arising. As soon as you become aware, it is in the disappearance mode. That kind of experience one is or has attained the insight of the solution, Penka Jnana. Along with that jnana, the understanding of impermanence, anicca, arises. Some yogis with sharper minds would even see the disappearance of the object followed by the disappearance of the mind that knows the objects. In other words, one witness or experience the disappearance of both the object and the mind that knows it. Now, one knows the impermanent nature of body and mind experientially. Swift and successive disappearance of mind and body, like quickly, one after the other, one after the other, as if it is going down the drain. Swift and successive disappearance of mind and body will make the yogi feel miserable. And actually, that is the direct experience of dukkha, suffering. And no power or no individual can stop that process of disappearance or impermanence. You don't want it, but still it will happen. It will disappear, it will disappear. It ends, it ends. Nobody can stop it. The inability to control or stop this phenomenon is one of the nature, one of the characteristics of non-self. These three marks, anicca, dukkha, anatta, impermanent, suffering, and non-self, they are all connected. If one knows one of the mark, if one knows anicca, impermanence, automatically one comes to know the other two, suffering and non-self. And if one knows dukkha, suffering, instantly one become aware of the impermanence and non-self, and so on. To be successful in the practice, one must observe respectfully and penetrate into the object. Following the material phenomenon at its natural pace. What it means is, let's say you are always breathing, your abdomen is always rising and falling. They have their own pace, depend on the condition, whether you're resting or sleeping or running, they have their own pace. Whatever that pace, and when one is observing that pace at that moment and condition, you must observe exactly at that pace and timing. Don't change, don't control, don't make it faster, don't make it slower. But observing according to its own pace based on the environmental condition is observing respectfully. And one must focus precisely at the moment, moment to moment to moment. Okay. Watch at its own pace and focus with precision of the present moment. That combination is called observing, watching, noting respectfully. And if you do that, it will penetrate the object's true nature. Here we have already cited an example. You're observing or meditating, walking meditation, to lift the foot, lifting. Lifting is a word concept. The other one is the form of the foot, lifted. But if you are truly observing and if you penetrate the nature, means you are only aware of the lightness. That's it. That is the true nature, the lightness. The other ones are all changing, changing, changing. They are conceptual forms. That is what it means by penetrate the object's true nature. One must be attentive to see the true nature, or you can call it reality, paramattha dhamma, absolute reality. But not the form, because the form is the concept of the object. Observing the specific characteristics of the object and its dissolution or disappearance. Okay? You observe and know all the specific characteristic, and also you see its disappearance. Is to understand impermanence, anicca, suffering, dukkha, and non-self, anatta. It's a very simple procedure, but need great effort and precision. Observing the six sense doors becomes easier once one has achieved or attained the insight of the solution. Before you have to put a lot of effort, but once you got into the Penganyana, it's very easy to observe at the sixth sense door. Eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, and mind. Six sense doors. But still, due to the attractive or very strong objects, some thoughts, desires, will occur. However, as soon as one noted they arise, one noted, it will simply disappear at once if you are in the stage of the solution. One must observe the arising of the six types of consciousness at the sixth sense door every moment. In other words, you're guarding these six doors all the time with mindfulness. And if you succeed in observing consciousness, citta, at the six sense doors, at every moment, you have attained the liberation from all form of sufferings. In other words, achieved nibbana. May all of you be able to observe or mindful all the time at the sixth sense door. And be able to see the disappearance of consciousness moment to moment and attain liberation as soon as possible. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Thank you very much.